Here in 2025, they're expecting about 1.8, 1.85 million vehicles to be repossessed. The difference, though, between 2025 and 2024 and 2023 really is this year we have seen a huge increase in the number of vehicles that are voluntarily repossessed. A lot of dealerships were banking on that because they used it as a fear-mongering tactic to get you into the dealership and come buy your vehicle before those tariffs hit. And boy, did they fall on their face doing so. 0% interest rate over 60 months, that's going to become much more commonplace as we teeter deeper into 2025. We're currently seeing the highest level of auto loan delinquencies that we have seen within the United States, even higher than the 08-09 recession, if you can believe that. They're picking up the phone saying, hey bank, can you please take this back? Even if it means shredding my credit score and shredding my ability to buy another vehicle in the future, I would much rather give this up to you than lose my house. We're seeing dealerships truly turn away deliveries and allocations because their lots are already stacked up with them. Instead of me being all doom and gloom in this video, let me highlight just a few vehicles that I actually recommend buying. People can't afford that either in today's day and age, especially when most Americans, they're living paycheck to paycheck. They need a means of transportation to be reliable. It's really difficult to sell the 2025 model or even the unsold 2024 model on your lot when you have 26s hitting. So that puts dealerships in a very sticky position. There's really only a handful of options across all vehicle manufacturers that are under 30 grand. And well, they're complete garbage, let's face it. YouTube Untamed here. Right now, we are witnessing the car market bubble implode upon itself. Between the levels of repossessions shooting to the moon, the levels of voluntary repossessions shooting to the moon, people just can no longer keep up with their monthly payments on their auto loans. Right now, 1 out of 4 Americans has a negative equity of over $7,500 on their auto loan currently. So those individuals, they are certainly not trading in that vehicle only to roll it into a massively overpriced new vehicle today. In today's video, I'm going to provide you with some new stats, facts, and figures that really paint a clear picture of just how bad the car market really is and where we're heading throughout the rest of 2025. So stick with me. The average cost of a new vehicle averaging about $49,000 and the average cost of a new truck being over $64,000. It really should come as no surprise as to why people are voting with their pocketbooks and saying no thank you now. And well, that puts dealerships in a very sticky position. Now they're having to turn away their deliveries. They're turning away their allocations, which has a ripple effect toward the factories and assembly lines, right? That causes vehicle manufacturers to actually slow or even halt production on some of their lineups, some of their vehicles in order to match demand. Because right now, vehicle inventory supply far exceeds demand, and I think that's abundantly clear when you go walk your local lot. Far gone are the days where you can go out and buy a full-size SUV and keep it under $60,000. Check this out. We have a 2025 Toyota Sequoia. This happens to be a platinum, and well, look at that, over $86,000. After you pay taxes and fees, you're well into the low $90,000 range, which is absolutely sickening. Perhaps you're interested in a new truck. You want to go check out a brand new Toyota Tundra. It's a Toyota. It should theoretically be remotely affordable, right? You would think that with it having that Toyota badge on it, but nope. Here you have it, over $78,000 for this Toyota Tundra Platinum here. I'm starting to see a theme. Many of these Tundras in this lineup here are well over $65,000. Since when? Since when is a Tundra priced at that point? Paint a picture for you. Back in 2023, we had about 1.5 million vehicles that were repossessed within the United States. Fast forward just 1 year, last year, 2024, we had about 1.75 million vehicles repossessed, about a 23% increase from 2023. That was an unprecedented increase and to an already staggering number. Here in 2025, they're expecting about 1.8, 1.85 million vehicles to be repossessed. The difference, though, between 2025 and 2024 and 2023 really is this year we have seen a huge increase in the number of vehicles that are voluntarily repossessed. That is people picking up the phone, calling their bank, calling their dealership saying, hey, I no longer want this vehicle. I can't make these payments. I'm not going to make these payments. Come get the vehicle, bring out that tow truck, and get this out of my driveway. So people are voluntarily giving up their vehicles because they just can't keep up. What does that do? Voluntarily giving it up or having a bank just come out and grab the vehicle makes no difference to your credit, unfortunately, right? I mean, you're still going to take a tremendous hit to your credit score, and your ability to buy another vehicle is hugely dampered moving forward. So it doesn't really change it if you voluntarily give it up or if they actually come and seize it, come take it from you. It makes no difference. I mentioned how dealerships are now turning away their allocations. We're seeing more and more of that as we get deeper into 2025. A lot of dealerships, although they won't admit it to you, they were very hopeful with the whole tariff discussion. when the tariffs were front page of all the newspapers and all the headlines, that meant you and I were getting scared. We were getting scared that the price tags on these vehicles here were going to only go up, and maybe up 25%, right? We kept hearing percentages like that, these crazy amounts. That's not going to happen. Most analysts believe that if there are increases to MSRPs between now and next year, it might be 5 to 7% tops, if that. And that's really not even including all vehicle manufacturers, okay? But a lot of dealerships were banking on that because they used it as a fear-mongering tactic to get you into the dealership and come buy your vehicle before those tariffs hit. And boy, did they fall on their face doing so. Obviously, some folks fell victim to that. They came out and bought their vehicle that month. But those folks who came and bought a pre-tariff vehicle and fell victim to that fear-mongering, those people are likely already planning to buy a vehicle later that year, this year anyway. So now that it's midsummer, end of summer, heading toward fall, those people are nowhere to be seen because they already came out and bought it due to the whole tariff fear-mongering. So now they have nobody coming out to buy vehicles. At this point, I'd like to transition to the sponsor of today's video. That is LastFit floor liners. They have lighting options that they provide, but today I want to show you the floor liners that I put in my 2025 Ford F-150 Raptor here. You guys know, if you followed my channel for any length of time, I do not do these paid promotions on my channel. I don't do it. I think it does take away from the authenticity of a channel, and I think you guys see right through it. So I hope you acknowledge that and appreciate the fact that whenever I do mention a company or highlight a product, it is truly because I firmly believe in it. And it is something that I would actually stand behind and truly encourage my friends and family to buy, and that is these LastFit floor liners. So I want to show you just how nice they are, how durable, how easy, of course, they are to install, and just kind of give you a clear picture of what they are. And right now, ironically enough, the company is celebrating a 10th year anniversary promotion sale where they're offering 20% off these floor liners. So that is a part of the reason why I wanted to share it with you guys. So there's an opportunity to get these at a pretty sizable discount, and they're already very affordable. So let me show you a little bit more detail. For starters, you guys know that I am quite picky with what I put on or inside my vehicles. I'm always very cautious about overdoing it on accident, so I try to be pretty tasteful with all the modifications that I do. And I feel like these LastFit floor liners really scratch the itch, at least for me. They're easier to clean because, well, you can kind of see here, there's just larger openings in it that will collect dirt, dust, debris, whatever it is, as you get in and out of your vehicle. So for me, I hate it when there's really tight spaces all throughout the entire floor mat. That makes it extremely difficult to clean. Not to mention, well, you already can kind of tell, but they obviously will do a custom designed 3D scan to make sure that it does offer full coverage within your vehicle. So if you get in here and it's muddy and water, it will pool up obviously inside here and not teeter into any of the carpet of the vehicle, which is really nice. Pretty simplistic, pretty sleek design overall. You just spray it down with water and wipe it away. You know, it's super, super simple to clean. I did just put them in, so just note that this will actually flatten out over the course of the next day or two, and I can even bend it the opposite way to make it look perfect. But I did just throw them in, and well, even as they're kind of bended a little bit there, it does look perfect, and it provides that perfect coverage all the way down to the sides and up underneath the seats there. Being about that dad life, I really appreciate the added protection of my vehicle. Guys like this right here love to spill their goldfish, they love to spill their drinks, and well, it is nice to know that it's going to land on that and not the carpet anyway. It is made with a premium TPE material. It's not as soft as rubber, nor is it as rigid and stiff as polyurethane. We've all had the floor liners or floor mats that are just way too stiff and you have to kind of bend them into place. They become cumbersome. These are not it. They're very easy to maneuver and easy to put into your vehicle without scratching on any of your interior, which I thought was very nice as I put it in here. The shipping, at least everything that I've read in my personal experience, they send these out the door and get them moving extremely quick. I do firmly believe that the packaging of a product is very, very important. I think it's a clear indication of the quality and care given by a company for their product. And well, with the floor mats here, not only did they arrive very quickly, the packaging was on point. Everything that I've read, everything that I've seen online, people have been wildly impressed with their products, between their lighting and of course their floor liners here. So it is something that after doing my homework, I do stand behind them confidently. So again, 20% off discount. I'll put that information. Please use my affiliate link in the description below that tells LastFit that, hey, you're watching my videos, and it obviously helps out the channel if you'd like to do that too. So please use that link, and there is that 20% off code that is going to be carried through the month of August here. Use that affiliate link, scroll down, pick your make, model of your vehicle, the year of the vehicle, and I'm sure you will be pleasantly surprised that they have an offering for you. And I think you're going to be very happy with this product. So it's worth protecting your vehicle. For me, that's always a big part of protecting my investment. You guys know I maybe worry about resale value a little bit too much. I keep my vehicles extremely nice on purpose. I don't beat them up. But this here just allows us to protect the flooring of it, protect the carpet underneath. Why not? My parting shot for LastFit, what I really appreciate about them is not only is it a quality product, it is still very much affordable. When you compare it to the competition, when you especially compare it to OEM all-weather floor mats, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the price point of these. The fact that we're paying these higher, much higher price tags and only getting lesser vehicles, and vehicles with much smaller, lesser engines too. Previously, you can go out and buy a Toyota Tacoma and get a naturally aspirated V6 underneath the hood. Same goes for the 4Runner. But nowadays, you only get a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder underneath the hood, or a hybridized 4-banger. That's it. No other reliable, naturally aspirated platforms do you get to choose from. And at the same time, you're paying 20 to 25% more for these vehicles. I can tell you there's something that those trucks right there have in common with this Ford Mustang Mach-E. That is, it is built entirely out of Mexico. Maybe this tag here will actually say it. Yep, so look at that, country of origin, hopefully you can see it. Engine, transmission, the vehicle assembly point, Mexico. And that's a shame, and that didn't really give us any savings, right? They still want an arm and a leg for these vehicles, all while outsourcing to a much cheaper labor country. You would think that very cheap, very affordable cars would become much more desirable, but that's not the case. I'm talking cars that are $10,000, $15,000, very used examples, of course, probably 10, 15 years plus old at this point. They're not selling. They're not selling because people don't want to take the risk of buying an older vehicle, although cheap, but then having it subjected to serious repair or needing to take it to the shop and being without a vehicle for several weeks. People can't afford that either in today's day and age, especially when most Americans, they're living paycheck to paycheck. They need a means of transportation to be reliable. Vehicles that were about 2 or 3 years old with less than 50,000 miles on them, those were the vehicles that were still maintaining excellent residual, excellent resale value, and they were fetching pretty large numbers for dealerships. We saw about a 10 to 15% increase in wholesale values on used vehicles since Q1. January 1st of this year, we've seen that 10 to 15% uptick on lightly used examples, okay? Not those 10-year-old examples with over 100,000 miles. They're not selling still, but these ones here, people can justify, at least looking at the sticker anyway, or at least looking at the price tag, spending $50,000 for a truck that cost maybe $70,000 brand new. But what a lot of people aren't realizing, although it's $20,000 cheaper than the truck brand new, they're not looking at the interest rate. If they carry that loan through term over 60 months or over 72 months, which are very common loan term durations, they will quickly realize that that $20,000 savings that they're getting on buying a used example compared to new, well, they're eating it up so much in those interest payments. You're paying so much toward interest, and really that gap begins to narrow tremendously over the course of that loan. Now, if you pay it off quick, then yeah, maybe you've made the savings, but most people, they don't pay off those vehicles at that price point so quickly. They drive them, they paid those monthly payments, and they eat that interest every single month. You have situations like this. This particular dealership got hit by a hailstorm very, very badly the other day. And although I never ever wish this upon any dealership, especially Ken Garf here, they've been really good to me in supporting my channel and supporting me doing this and providing this content to you guys. They unfortunately had the vast majority of their vehicles hit severely by pretty serious damage. This is a blessing and a curse though. Of course, every dealership has insurance. They have insurance that of course would cover, acts of nature like this. Mother Nature showing its ugly hand and damaging all their vehicles. This will allow them to get paid out for all the damage, of course. And well, they can then choose to sell them as is and during a hail sale or whatever it is, and still be supplemented by insurance to make up for it. So this is kind of a free pass for them to actually get rid of their inventory and still maximize their quote-unquote returns on all these vehicles. It may impact, of course, their insurance premium to some degree. Hopefully not too bad for them, but that is at least a small saving grace. They're getting paid out for it, and they're not going to lose tremendously on these vehicles. Interesting too, I have noticed a lot of people, even when they are living paycheck to paycheck, they would still rather go out and get into more debt up to their ears with the used Mercedes-Benz. They'd rather go get a used Mercedes-Benz AMG and spend $70,000 for it rather than going to buy a used Toyota Camry. It makes no sense to me. Even if they're driving Uber Eats, they're still going out and spending these astronomical figures for vehicles that they can't afford. It really is the whole keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with what we see on TikTok. We're the TikTok generation. We're constantly trying to compare ourselves to others, and really, that's proving to our own detriment, of course. It is a little reassuring knowing that people are at least willing to acknowledge when they get to the point of no return. They get to the point where they absolutely cannot make the payments on their vehicles, and then that's when they're turning it back in. They're picking up the phone saying, hey, bank, can you please take this back? Even if it means shredding my credit score and shredding my ability to buy another vehicle in the future, I would much rather give this up to you than lose my house. I'd much rather give this up and lose my house and rather keep food on my table. And people are making that very tough decision right now. It's nothing to joke about. Most Americans, they really are struggling bad. When you combine these huge monthly payments with the ever rising cost of insurance premiums, over doubling in the last 2.5 years, in some states tripling in the last 2.5 years, people can't keep up. It's really a death by a thousand cuts. And in my last video, I showcased many of the dealerships around my local area that were affected by that hailstorm. It really was, unfortunately, a sad indicator of just how cheap the quality of so many new vehicles really are today. All the body panels, all the hoods, all the roofs, even these hard plastic panels on top of the Ford Bronco behind me, they're cracked open. So many of them are just cracked and shattered because, well, they're just lesser quality products. The metal, the aluminum used on these are so thin, the paint so thin, it just cracked right through it all. So go check out that video if you haven't seen it. It really is a clear testament of just how poorly made so many new vehicles are compared to what they used to be. We have vehicles like this helping drive up insurance premiums for us all. This is a Ford Bronco Raptor, and well, get a load of this price tag, guys. It's because of wildly expensive vehicles like this. Hopefully, I know it's kind of a lot of shade here, but it is $93,955. When someone buys this vehicle and they crash it, they total it, and insurance pays it out, well, that ultimately affects all of our premiums in a slight way. If hundreds of people are buying vehicles like this and they're crashing and totaling out, we're all paying into the same pot of money for insurance, and well, it affects all of our premiums, unfortunately. And buying a Ford Explorer today is going to cost you $55,000 to $65,000. Since when? When I think Ford Explorer in my mind, I truly do believe it should be about a $35,000 SUV. It's the American Ford Explorer, for Pete's sake. This is the American family hauler. Why is it out of reach for most Americans? I mean it when I say that most Americans want three things. Most Americans want reliability, simplicity, and affordability. And we used to find that with brands like Toyota, of course, right? They used to offer these naturally aspirated platforms that could run 250,000 miles with minimal headache and minimal issue. This Tacoma was a prime example of that. The previous generation, 5th generation Toyota 4Runner, another example of that. The 4Runners historically have always been that. Same with the Land Cruiser, blah, 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 the list goes on. Unfortunately, nowadays, they've all gotten these tiny displacement, turbocharged engines, strapping hybrids to everything, battery packs to everything. They've become overdone and overcomplex, and people just can't work on them with any level of confidence. They can't pop the hood and navigate through all the wires for the hybridization of these engines and work on it with confidence. It's just no longer an option. Believe it or not, we are currently seeing the highest level of auto loan delinquencies that we have seen within the United States, even higher than the 08-09 recession, if you can believe that. Highest level of 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day auto loan delinquencies. People are just failing to make their payments right now. It really wasn't all that long ago that vehicles like these here would fly out the shelf. We have a Chevy Silverado 1500 ZR2 Bison. We have an F-150 Lightning and another standard ZR2 Silverado here. These would fly out the shelf, and even Chevy was actually deploying markups on these, $5,000, $10,000 over MSRP to move them. And well, believe it or not, they actually did that at the beginning with the F-150 Lightning. But they quickly got to a point where they were offering huge discounts on the F-150 Lightning. I'm talking $20,000 to $29,000 off MSRP, including the government subsidies and tax credits being offered on them at the time. And even then, they couldn't move this metal. Seeing what they did with the F-150 Lightning is a clear indicator of what they will likely do with other vehicle trims and models that don't sell well. Right now, we're seeing dealerships truly turn away deliveries and allocations because their lots are already stacked up with them. We see it with Toyota Tacomas and Tundras in particular. Right here, the F-150 Lightning, they actually halted production throughout the majority of 2024 because they had so many unsold 2023 units, carryover units, still sitting on Ford dealership lots. This is a huge burden for most Ford dealers. And well, they didn't want to turn them away because that would only give them a black eye as a dealership and actually hinder their ability to get allocations for other vehicles and other trims. So they wanted to play nice and play along and hope to God that they could actually sell this EV truck. But it was extremely difficult. Clear picture for you. Right now across the United States, there's about 78,000 vehicles within Toyota dealership inventory. 78,000 total across all Toyota dealerships, okay? 41%, no kidding, 41% of that 78,000 are Toyota Tacomas and Toyota Tundras. The two trucks there take up the vast majority, of course, of the entire inventory, the entire stock of Toyotas right now. Let that sink in, kind of wild. Ram trucks right now actually have the longest days on lot time, and they still continue to be the king of collecting dust on dealership lots. I'm talking brand new examples. So I really do feel bad for dealerships as they try to sell pre-owned examples of them. They just can't sell the new ones. What makes them think that they can sell a used example? Unless they're slashing prices tremendously, which unfortunately I know they're not on this example here, they just will not move, and they're going to continue to sit here and age out on the lot. Brings up the important point of lot rot. Although historically speaking, you would never have to worry about a 5th generation Toyota 4Runner sitting, collecting dust, and rotting on a lot, but unfortunately this one was, if you saw my last video, struck by hail. It's a lot of mist all over it, a lot of condensation, so you're not seeing a ton of the damage, but this one was hit hard, unfortunately. All of them were. So these may fall victim to lot rot too, even. You know, if they don't get that fixed soon, they're going to continue to sit here. Talk about lot rot. I feel like a lot of people throw that terminology around all the time without fully understanding it. When these vehicles are sitting here and they're not moving around, that is hugely detrimental to the entire vehicle, not just the powertrain, but like we're talking the tires, the wheels. If the tires are just sitting, you're going to start to see some dry rot and cracking out in the tires. If they're sitting, I'm talking for a month and a half, 2 months, 3 months, if they're sitting without being driven, that is detrimental. Without the fluids being pumped through the vehicle, circulated through the vehicle, lubricating things that need to be lubricated, these vehicles begin to fall apart. If they sit for over a year, and sometimes they do, without being driven much, and just around the dealership lot isn't really sufficient. A lot of dealerships will tell you otherwise. No, we drive it around the lot. We park them in different spots. That's insufficient. These need to be driven. Vehicles are meant to be driven. They're built to be driven, and when they're not, it can be hugely detrimental. Time out. Tell me the truth. Do you think the look of the previous 3rd generation Toyota Tacoma here is nicer? I mean, do you think this looks better than the new generation Toyota Tacoma? Here we have another example right here, a voodoo blue example. Love this color. Big fan of this color. Tell me, would you take a previous generation Toyota Tacoma over the new one? People aren't buying these new vehicles because they are overcomplicated. They're overcomplex, like the 6th generation 4Runner here. Although they look good, they're just overdone. And once you get past that vehicle manufacturer warranty, well, you're kind of up a creek and your hands are tied when it comes to actually fixing the thing. You are forced to take it into the dealership, take it into the shop here, and pay an arm and a leg to get it repaired. Play make-believe for 10 seconds here. Pretend they did offer this glorious 5.7 liter V8 that they used to have in the Toyota Tundra into the new current generation Tundra, and perhaps even the new Sequoia and Land Cruiser, right? Imagine they did, because that's what they used to have it in. They used to have it in a 200 series Land Cruiser, the previous generation Sequoia, and man, although a thirsty engine, extremely reliable, it is just a brute of an engine, and people miss this. It was very simplistic, and they knew that they could always start this up. It was always going to run for them, no matter the inclement weather, the weather conditions, this was going to work for them, and it would never leave them hanging. Personally, I do find it sad that people are gravitating to vehicles like this more commonly. Although not a bad vehicle at all, I don't think it looks bad. I think it serves a purpose, being very simplistic, being quote-unquote very affordable, priced right around $30,000, $32,000. This here, it just feels like a cop-out. It feels like people are giving up. Like, hey, I can't afford anything else, or you know, everything else is just wildly expensive. And this right here, it makes sense. It still comes with a vehicle manufacturer warranty, so I understand why people buy them. But I personally am kind of upset that these are becoming more and more popular with the Ford Maverick here. Started out the year with 18% more inventory compared to the beginning of 2024. You know, that inventory level continues to skyrocket, all while demand continues to plummet. And well, now we're kind of finding ourselves in a weird dichotomy with the entire car market at large, where new vehicles, they're not selling whatsoever. Dealerships figured that out, so they're hiking up price tags of used vehicle inventory just a little bit to try to make up for their losses, for the lack of sales of new inventory. So they're trying to make a balancing act out of it right now, but they're struggling, and they're struggling bad. And well, people are clearly voting with their pocketbooks moving forward at this point. So there needs to be a shift in the amount of vehicles that are actually being produced. And that it's going to come at the hand of vehicle manufacturers producing less vehicles, slowing or halting production. But they can't do that overnight. And that's the problem for vehicle manufacturers and dealerships alike. That takes time. They need to project out the projected demand for their vehicles and then set up their production rates accordingly. That doesn't just happen at a snap of the fingers, right? That's going to take several months to take place, and well, that creates that backlog for us. Get a load of this F-150. So many of these vehicles were just demolished by that hailstorm. I hate to see it. Absolutely hate to see it. Gosh. Highlander right next to it took some additional hits as well. Yikes. Some back glass bashed out over here. Nearly every vehicle parked this direction lost their back glass. Pretty sad. Part of the rub is it wasn't all that long ago that you could walk a dealership lot and find a new vehicle option priced under $30,000 pretty easily. There's really only a handful of options across all vehicle manufacturers that are under 30 grand. And well, they're complete garbage, let's face it. Oftentimes coming with a CVT transmission that's going to implode on you at any minute. That just doesn't make sense anymore. Nowadays, everything seemingly is 45 grand and up. Quick, if you're interested in having a small heart attack, go ahead and pull up Auto Trader, Car Guru, whatever it is, and look how much people are asking for their used 2024 Toyota 4Runner TRD Pros in particular. Brand new MSRPs are right about $55,000 to $57,000, depending on how you spec it exactly. But nowadays, even with 20, 30,000 miles on them, people are still trying to demand over 60 grand for these. Go check it out for yourself. Pretty sickening. It's sickening, but I don't fault them because people want this. They miss this. They miss the reliability that the previous generation 4Runner offered them. They miss it so much where they're willing to pay a premium if it means getting into the last of the true 4Runner that will offer that same level of peace of mind that they've always grown to love with Toyota. Kind of a sad sight here, and I wonder what kind of predicament this puts the dealership in. Obviously, they'll be liable to take care of it somehow, and obviously the buyer of this Tacoma will have the option to maybe turn it away. Plenty of dents and damage from that hailstorm. Not quite as bad as many of the other Tacomas next to it, of course. At least didn't lose a windshield. But this Tacoma, TRD Off-Road, I don't know if you can even see it, but it does have a sold placard in the windshield there. So I feel bad for the buyer of this, but I can honestly tell you that it would be a very easy replacement to find another one of these with, I'm sure, an equally good discount. Clear, when people are giving up their vehicles for repossession or failing to make payments and have their vehicle repossessed, that is extremely catastrophic for their credit score and their ability to buy another vehicle in the future. They will likely have to subject themselves to one of those predatory lenders going to like CarMax and getting stuck with an awful interest rate on their next vehicle purchase, which is kind of a catch-22. I find it kind of strange that when people have a terrible credit score or a bad history of making payments on vehicles, banks hit them with an even stiffer interest rate. So they make them pay a lot more for their vehicle. They weren't able to pay for it before, so they're going to make them pay more. It feels weird, right? But they do that because they're covering their rear end. The banks are. There's a little bit of CYA taking place there where they know that there's a good chance that they might have to go fetch that vehicle, and the condition that they find that vehicle in probably isn't going to be the best. If they didn't have the responsibility to make those monthly payments, what makes you think they had the responsibility to take proper care of that vehicle, performing the necessary maintenance and repairs of the vehicle as necessary? So when they bring that back in, it likely will be in rough shape. Well, my jaw always drops when I go to CarMax and I see their interest rate offerings per credit scores, right? With fair credit, you're still going to get stuck with an 18% interest rate from CarMax. You're going to get stuck with up to 23% interest rate if you have poor or challenge credit. And well, if you get your vehicle repossessed, that will likely teeter you into the poor challenge credit sector, right? And that is going to be hugely sickening to make those monthly payments on that vehicle, but you'll likely need to in order to rebuild your credit, to prove to banks, to prove to lenders that you can recover from it. Be compared to foreclosing on your house. If you have to foreclose on your house, obviously it alleviates the temporary pain that you're in. You get rid of it and you're no longer drowning. But trying to crawl out of that hole is going to take many years. There's a reason why foreclosures and bankruptcies stay on your history for, I think, 10 years, I believe is what it is. And that just hugely impacts your ability to get any other loan moving forward. What can you expect throughout the rest of 2025? I believe that we're going to continue to see new vehicle inventory sales continue to plummet. They're not going to be able to move this new inventory, and that's going to force a lot of dealerships to have so many unsold carryover units into 2026. Right now, we're already seeing 2026 model years hitting dealership lots. And well, it's really difficult to sell the 2025 model or even the unsold 2024 model on your lot when you have 26s hitting. So that puts dealerships in a very sticky position where they have to slash prices tremendously and offer incentivized interest rates. So right now, really, I do believe is a great time to go out and consider buying a new vehicle because of that pendulum happening right before our eyes. New vehicle inventory showing up, 2026 models, unsold 2024 models still sitting on dealership lots. Look across the country, you'll find plenty of them. That gives you a ton of negotiating power. A lot more of this moving forward. No, not the windshield cracks, but 0% interest rate over 60 months. Maybe you can't see it, maybe you can see it better over here. 0% interest rate over 60 months, that's going to become much more commonplace as we teeter deeper into 2025. And expect a great discount on top of that. A lot of dealerships will try to trick you into believing that, hey, you could do either or. You could do a great incentivized interest rate, or we could do $15,000 off or $10,000 off. Do both. Expect both. Otherwise, don't give them your business. Walk. Go to the next dealership. There's plenty of dealerships out there that are struggling bad, and they should be willing to play ball with you. So we do live in a world where you need a reliable means of transportation. Most people, they have jobs, and well, most people need to commute to those jobs, and most people don't just live in the city, metro area, and hop on a train or a bus or public transport, right? You need a vehicle. But why do we all need to have these vehicles that cost an arm and a leg? You know, why is it that we've convinced ourselves that we need to trade out our vehicles every 3 to 5 years? It really is an American phenomenon. Really, throughout the last 40 years, 3 to 5 years, trading in for a new vehicle has become the norm, the standard. And that constantly keeps us buried in debt. So guys, the thought and idea of buying a used vehicle right now kind of freaks me out because of the huge surge of repossessions that we've seen. If a vehicle had been repossessed before, not always is it reported to a Carfax. Not always is it reported accordingly on the vehicle history report. That freaks me out a little bit. So you don't truly know what you're getting. And so it's really important for you to take that vehicle to your local mechanic, someone you trust, look it up, down, all around, and feel really good about that purchase, because you don't want to get yourself into a position where you just paid an enormous amount of money for a vehicle that was not maintained at all or taken care of throughout the first few years of its ownership. That right there is a very scary thought. Another indicator of just how bad that hailstorm was, check it out. Even the hard plastic on the back end of your mirror caps was busted out. That's pretty wild. Of course, some sizable chips and cracks on the windshield there, but this is pretty wild. Guys, I normally don't give this type of advice on my videos, but if you are finding yourselves in a very tight position where you're struggling to make the monthly payments on your vehicle, and maybe you're failing to make those monthly payments, try to exhaust every option available to try to sell that vehicle. Even if it means paying out of pocket a little bit to try to get out from underneath it, that is often a smarter decision rather than taking that huge hit to your credit moving forward with a repossession. Even if it means paying some out of pocket. You know, take it to CarMax, see what they're willing to offer you for your vehicle, take it to dealerships in your area, see if they can beat one another's offer for your vehicle, just so you can get out from underneath it. Yourself in 10 years will thank you greatly if you can manage to pay yourself out of it, pay your way out of the vehicle rather than having the bank just take it from you, because it's going to be a very tough road ahead. One tall tale sign that dealers are struggling bad and vehicle manufacturers are struggling bad is when they begin to offer tremendous leasing options on vehicles that historically don't receive leasing options available to them. We're seeing GMC offer that on much of their GMC 1500 and even some of their 2500 lineup, great leasing deals. And that right there is a very, very clear indicator that they are struggling bad to move this metal. Heck, even deals like this, we have $9,200 off this GMC 1500 here with an MSRP of just over $69,000. This one's sporting the 5.3 liter V8. It is the elevation trimmed, stuffed with a few additional options, bringing that price tag up a little bit there. But $9,200 off or 0% interest rate over 36 months. I bet even then they'll still struggle to sell this. They'll need to bring that up to at least 15, 16, 17,000 and offer that incentivized rate if they want to move this metal. It's even saying something when the high-end luxury segment vehicles are sitting collecting dust. Obviously, the target demographic for vehicles like this Cadillac Escalade IQ here, they can afford it, right? They're priced at $160,000 plus. The target demographic can buy this, no matter the state of the economy. But the one percenters that can afford this type of vehicle, they're fully aware of what the market is doing. You know, they got a finger on the pulse of the economy and what the market is, and they're holding off. They're holding on to the money and maybe investing it elsewhere. Wisely, of course. So you see it with BMW, right? Go to any BMW lot or Mercedes-Benz, what are you gonna see? Just lines upon lines of unsold inventory. And again, many of them carryover units from the previous year. Can't say I'm surprised when we have price tags like this on new GMC trucks now. I don't know if you can see it, but $85,479 for this 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 AT4X. Since when? Since when does a GM, a General Motors product, need to cost over 85 grand? Not even a full-size heavy-duty diesel option, and it costs that much? All this to say, do not let a dealership or a sales rep at a dealer convince you otherwise. Don't let them try to convince you that, hey, you better come buy this vehicle before it's gone. The strongest weapon in your arsenal truly is, and I've said it before, is your ability to walk away from a deal. Walk away from a dealership. Walk away from them. And I guarantee it, over the next several days, they'll be blowing up your phone, trying their best to get you to come back into the dealership to even offer you a better deal than what you're trying to get originally, because they even know that they can't sell this inventory right now. Instead of me being all doom and gloom in this video, let me highlight just a few vehicles that I actually recommend buying. This happens to be one of them. This is a Subaru Outback Wilderness Edition. I actually have a soft spot for this color. It's called Geyser Blue. This is one of very, very, very few vehicles that I feel like you still get good bang for your buck. Okay, they have great resale value. They're a proven vehicle when it comes to resale. I mean, you always have some head gasket issues that are pretty notorious and common on these vehicles. Hopefully you can see it here, guys. The price tag is $46,284. So not cheap by any means, but it really is kind of a spec'd out version of the Outback. A very reliable vehicle, excellent in snow. Here is another example of a vehicle that I do personally believe is worth it. This is the all-new 2026 Honda Passport Trail Sport. Particularly the Trail Sport, I really like this one. It has a Japanese reliability, sporting a naturally aspirated V6. Like we've talked about plenty of my videos, that is becoming, sorry, let me get you the price tag here. That's becoming far and far more rare. Well, you can't see it here, guys, but $55,000 for this Trail Sport Honda Passport. Big fan of this. I think it looks good. I think it's a very nice redesign to it. And I think it will offer that very nice Honda reliability and that great peace of mind. You tell me, do you like the Passport? And guys, if you've been following my channel for any length of time, this one won't come as a shock to you. I do personally believe that the Nissan Frontier Pro 4X in particular is a very, very wise buy. I feel like you truly do get your money's worth when you buy this midsize pickup truck today, especially with the discounts that you can expect to get on them. Let me remind you real quick how much they want for these vehicles. This here is a Pro 4X, $46,000. So nothing to scoff at, I understand, but this vehicle here does sport a 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6 underneath the hood. It checks a lot of boxes for most truck buyers, right? It's simplistic, it's affordable, and it's reliable. Yeah, obviously you can argue that to some degree, but to me, when you get $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 off that price tag, you get this to the high 30s, that truck makes sense. Especially given the fact that dang near every single vehicle manufacturer today is now forcing you to have a smaller displacement turbocharged 4-cylinder underneath the hood for the midsize truck segment. This here really is kind of a dying breed. Really saying something when there are brand new 2024 Jeep Wranglers still sitting on dealership lots right here. Personally, I am a big fan of Jeep. I love that they're built out of, Wranglers are built out of Toledo, Ohio, built by fellow Americans, but I hate that Jeep price hiked these so much over the last 5-6 years. Since 2019, they hiked up price tags across their entire lineup 54%. And I hate that. When you go look at we'll look at the window sticker here on this Rubicon, get ready to drop your jaw, I'm sure. Look at that. Hopefully you can see it, but $73,100. Now, the Wrangler would be great if they kept the price tags reasonable. People love this. It's an American icon, let's face it, but when they price it to the moon, well, you begin to see this sitting on dealership lots to include unsold 2024 units, and we're already August 2025, if you could believe that. No matter where you look at any Jeep, Ram, Dodge, Chrysler dealership, you're going to see just lines upon lines of them sitting all throughout the dealership collecting dust. Wrap up the video there, guys. Right now we're seeing this unprecedented level of new vehicle inventory, these huge discounts being applied to new vehicle inventory, and even still they're not moving this metal. Even when they send them through auction, send them through wholesale, there are so many times where they're getting no sales. People are not buying this. Dealerships aren't even buying these, and even the repossessions right now, they're going through auction without being sold. people are just being very choosy with what they get, and they're deciding to hold on to their vehicle, their current vehicle, much longer. Perform that necessary maintenance, because that is much wiser financially. So I'll wrap up the video there. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune into my videos. If you appreciate this type of content whatsoever, I do respectfully request that you please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a ton, and I promise you, it doesn't go unnoticed.